Hey friends, welcome back to the Waiting Well podcast. Before we start, I want to give a gentle trigger warning for today's episode. We will be talking about early miscarriage. It's sometimes called a chemical pregnancy, the faint positive lines that disappear, and diving into the grief of seeing your period come when you thought this month might be the one. If this feels too tender for you, please take care of your heart, hit pause if you need to, or come back for a different episode or this episode when you are ready. You are not alone. Hey friends, welcome to the Waiting Well podcast. I am your host, Courtney Dunker, and you are here because your journey to motherhood has not looked the way that you always imagined. It has held heartbreak, loneliness, and questions like, why me, God? I'm here to remind you that you do not have to walk this road alone. And here we can wait well together. Each week, I will share faith-based encouragement from my own infertility journey, provide information from guest experts on navigating infertility and conceiving, powerful testimonies, and top tips on stewarding your health and emotional well-being through this demanding journey. So if you are ready to take back control of your life, find peace with God, joy in the in-between spaces, and thrive in your waiting season, then meet me at the well, girl. Grab that warm chocolate chip cookie, a little bit of unicorn juice or iced coffee. We've got some intentional growth to do. Let's get it. I want to start by naming the ache. For many women, it begins with that faint, barely there line. Your heart jumps, you start to imagine, you even let yourself hope. And then a few days later, that line fades and your period comes, and suddenly it feels like all that hope is ripped away before it even had time to take root, or maybe even before you could tell your husband. It can feel really confusing. You're asking questions like, was I pregnant? Did I make it up? Why would God allow me to hope, only to take it away? These are real, honest questions, and I believe God is not offended by them. He meets us there. So for me, I actually just went through this experience myself. I have only had one positive pregnancy test ever in the 10 years that Josh and I have been married, and that was praise. That came from, I should clarify, that came from natural conception. So the only other positive pregnancy I had was when we did IVF for Highland. And so you can imagine 10 years, how many periods are you going through? How many tests are you taking? And now that praise is over a year and a half. She's 19 months. We're looking ahead and feeling like, okay, Lord, we don't know that our family is finished. We don't know. We really want to be intentional about God. Like you have a plan for our family, and we don't want to just decide that we're done. We want to be intentional about allowing you to tell us what numbers we should have. And so we've been trying, I guess you could say, for the last 3 months. And this third month, I've been tracking my fertility with an Edo that I have shared with you guys over the last few weeks. I've been very excited about having that tool in my tool bag. That's real. It's not made up. It's like genuinely what I'm doing right now. And so I have been able to align like peak fertility to trying to conceive. And this past month, I took a test on Sunday, and then this was like, I don't know, a couple weeks ago or something, 2 weeks ago now. And I took a test on Sunday because I was like, gosh, I've just been feeling so funny. And I've been pregnant now twice. So I do feel like I know the difference between those symptoms and my period generally. I feel pretty good about that. And I'm not one that's like very quick to assume I'm pregnant. I feel like I lived my first 2 or 3 years of trying to conceive like that. And I was like, I cannot live like this. So I just stopped assuming that I was pregnant because every time I was let down and disappointed. And then, so that Sunday afternoon, I took a test and it was like negative right away. And I was like, okay, whatever. And I went about my life, and Josh was at work and I was taking care of the kids. I got really busy. And then I came back and it was positive, a very faint positive, but it was definitely positive. And I was like, oh my goodness. Like I just started having this total freak out because even though we were like not trying to not get pregnant, I just felt like this was going to impact a lot of bigger things that we had on the horizon next year. I don't know. I guess I just didn't really, I don't know. I just was kind of like, oh my gosh, is this the right? I feel like it's a little scary when you do get pregnant because there's so much at stake. It's just a little bit scary. And then you go through it and you're like, is this real? And you've been through infertility. I just feel like just all these emotions are swarming you when you see something like that. And then I'm texting some of my best girlfriends like, okay, do we see this? Do we all see this? And some of them did, some of them didn't. And I was like, okay, tomorrow morning I'll take another test and see where we go. And so I woke up the next morning. Josh left for a staff retreat, so he was gone. I was like, okay, taking a test. Boom, took a test. Again, another very faint positive line, but this one looked a little bit more like less faint, I guess, if you will, but still faint. And I'm like, okay, this must be like very early on because I still had about 4 days before I would miss my period. And so I sent it to my girls and we deliberated and all of us were kind of like, yeah, that definitely looks like a very faint positive. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant. And Josh was going to come home from the staff retreat the next day. So I ordered a little onesie that said surprise on it. And I was just so nervous to tell him because we have a lot of things happening over the next month that I just feel like I feel like we're in a season where it's like, okay, this will be a stretch. This will be a step of faith for sure. We always are trying to conceive in the sense of like, we just want the babies that God has for us because it took us so long to conceive, right? And become parents. So anyway, so that all happens. And then the next morning I'm like, okay, I'm going to take another test just to make sure we're good. I grabbed a digital one from the store to, be able to have it say pregnant when I gave it to him. And so this is like the third day of testing. And Josh comes home that night. I have the onesie. It was delivered like overnight from Amazon. And I take a test and it's negative. And I'm like, what? That doesn't make sense. So then I take one of the early detection tests and do the same thing. And I take that. And it also is negative, like zero faint line at all. No question about it. And my heart is sinking. Just like, what in the world? What is going on? Well, I'm definitely not going to tell him if I don't know if I'm pregnant. I don't need to I don't know. I don't need to bring that up if that's going to be the case. And I don't know. I had already downloaded the app of, what, like when you're expecting and like the due date and all that kind of stuff. And I felt like I had spent 2 days kind of wrapping my head around the fact that we were have a third or have a baby and that we would be able to, that God did it again, essentially did what he did with praise. Like he did it again. He did the miracle again. And anyway, and so my heart fell and I just felt like so sad, so sad. Because I've never had any kind of miscarriage in the past. Again, like I said, the only positive pregnancies I had were for Highland and Praise. And I've never had zero like evaporation lines, faint lines. Like I've never had that game be a part of our journey. If you have ever wondered why you're not getting pregnant despite doing everything right, you are not alone. I honestly remember feeling so lost every month, questioning whether I was even ovulating. And back then, I relied only on cycle tracking apps, thinking my regular cycle meant that they were spot on. I wish I knew then how often those dates can be wrong, and that is why I wish I had Anito years ago. Now at 36, using this tool for the first time, it is when I'm discovering my actual ovulation day is completely different than what my calendar app had been telling me all along. So I want to share this with you because whether you're planning for the future or you're actively trying to conceive, Anito has been truly life-changing for me. I honestly wish back then I had it, and I'm so grateful that I have it now. It is the only fertility tracker I've actually stuck with, which is saying something for me because I am a self-proclaimed type B personality. I just completed my very first full cycle with Anito, and I'm actually on my second one, and it has been incredibly eye-opening. Because it's actually confirmed that I did ovulate, which I was wondering, am I ovulating right now? I'm still breastfeeding Praise. I was just kind of in the midst of that. My app never told me this. It just guessed that I was probably ovulating on a certain day, but Anito, it actually tells me my 6-day fertile window and confirms whether or not I did ovulate. And that alone truly has made it worth it. This is going to be a tool that I use for the rest of the time that I'm trying to conceive. And I'm excited to use it for baby number 3, hopefully. But what makes it even more powerful is that it's the first at-home fertility monitor that tracks 4 key hormones all in one single strip. That is going to be your estrogen, your LH, your PDG, and your FSH on a single strip. Like you get lab-grade data from the comfort of your own home in just 10 minutes. It has been a real breakthrough. and super relaxed setting in how I'm learning more about my body as we are, again, back in the boat of trying to conceive. I literally just pee first thing in the morning, pop the strip in to the little device that goes on your phone, and the data is right there on my phone. The best part is I'm not overthinking anything. It does all the tracking for me. I'm not guessing. I'm not wondering if it's working or trying to read into symptoms. It is giving me real charts that I can just screenshot. I could take that straight to my doctor. And here's what really makes the difference is it doesn't just guess that you're ovulating. It actually confirms it. It tracks the PDG. So that has been a huge game changer as well for me as I'm trying to figure out where I'm at in my cycle, what my body is doing in my hormones. So if you are anything like me and you are longing for that clarity and you're just kind of tired of the noise and just like, I want to try naturally, I want to have all the tools at my disposal and accurately read your cycle, and you're also wanting a little bit more consistency and control to have more data to look at and to have these conversations with your providers and understand your cycle better, be able to navigate those conversations better on your journey and have more peace of mind and confidence, this tool you have to have. So head to the link in the show notes. The Anito Starter Pack is available for just $89 with the code TheWaitingWell at anito.com. That is INITO.com using code TheWaitingWell. Honestly, this tool has been such a big help. I'm really thankful that it exists because it's allowed me to understand my cycle so much better. It's giving me confidence and peace of mind knowing that I did ovulate. And I'm super excited to see what the Lord does as I utilize this with our cycle and continuing to prayerfully grow our family and see what God does with this. So if you want to get on track, make sure you head to the show notes, waitingwellanito.com. And so to kind of give a gentle explanation of what a chemical pregnancy is, which I guess you'll never really know if that's the case, but I feel like that's probably what I went through. It's basically, medically speaking, a chemical pregnancy means that fertilization happened, but the pregnancy ended very early, often before heartbeat can be detected. And then your body recognizes that loss and your cycle resets. And I just want to say that at least like from what I'm going through, I feel like that's probably what happened because I did have 2 separate days of the faint positive pregnancies and just feeling like, okay, I saw the line. I felt that hope. I believed that God had done a new thing and something like he did with praise. And I don't know, I just because it was early or it's like we're incapable of like really knowing exactly what happened, because then a few days later, of course, my period starts and I'm just sitting there left with like this whole confusion. And it's not like I can talk to somebody to like understand what exactly happened because my body was just doing what my body was doing. Like there was 2 separate tests, 2 separate days, and there was a faint line and there was the hope, and that was all real. And then I had to process what that meant, what we are missing. And it is different for me and my husband to navigate what that looks like. I'm feeling like that was very real, and like I feel like I was pregnant for a minute and then I wasn't, and it wasn't his body going through it. So obviously like to him, it's a little bit different of a conversation, a little bit different of a feeling, right? Because his body's not going through that, and he didn't see it, he wasn't there, right? But he did obviously have compassion and empathy for me as I'm going through it. But it's moments like these, I think about Paul. His life was marked by disappointment, imprisonment, suffering. Yet, what do we hear again and again in his letters? And we were actually just reading through Philippians at church on Sunday, and it was just so encouraging to my soul. I wanted to share it with you because the word that just kept popping out on the page was rejoice. Philippians 4:4 says, "Rejoice in the Lord always." I will say it again, rejoice. Now, Paul isn't writing from a vacation home where everything is going well. 9 times out of 10, he's writing from prison. He's shackled, he's limited, he's misunderstood. And still he says rejoice like so many different times in the Philippians book. And as I was like noticing this as we were reading in Philippians this past weekend, I started thinking about joy versus rejoice. And a lot of times you can think like, oh, they're just different different, I don't know, what is it, like where you put the word together, but like same kind of word, right? They should mean the same thing, but they don't. And here's what I want to point out is that there is a difference between forcing yourself to have joy and choosing to rejoice. I think a lot of times as Christians, we are trying to force ourselves to have joy because we do believe like I should have joy at all times, like we read about in God's word, but we're missing that during these seasons, these grief moments, these valley seasons, joy may not be overflowing, but we can choose to rejoice. And that's where the difference lies. So forcing joy looks like pretending you're fine when you're not, putting on a smile to convince yourself or others, or shaming yourself for feeling sad. Even for myself, like I shouldn't have any shame that I felt sad about potentially having lost life, even if it was just a few days or was never actually something that grew in beyond just the fertilization. I can mourn that and I shouldn't feel embarrassed or sad or force myself to be joyful because I have 2 other daughters. Like it is okay to walk through the feeling that you're navigating when you're going through these circumstances. And we can also, at the same time, choose to rejoice because that is different. It is not fake. It is not denial of what you're feeling. Rejoicing is saying, God, this hurts, but I will still declare that you are good. I will still cling to your promises. I will still give thanks for what remains, your presence, your peace, the people you've placed around me. Paul never denied his pain. In 2 Corinthians 12, he talks about his thorn in the flesh and how God's power is made perfect in weakness. He actually boasts in his weakness, so Christ can be seen more clearly. That is the heart of rejoicing. It's not dismissing the pain or ignoring it, but it's inviting God into it and saying, as I stand here in pain, in my grief, in my sorrow, I can raise my hands and choose to still rejoice because my rejoicing is not based on my circumstances, but on who God is and what he has done on my behalf. So what do we do with the faint lines that fade? How do we find purpose in something that feels so meaningless, right? Romans 5 says, suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope, and hope does not put us to shame. Even here in this pain, God is shaping something eternal in you. He's producing fruit, patience, faith, resilience. He's teaching you and me how to cling to him in the dark, and that fruit is going to last far longer than any outcome we hope for. So let's talk about practical ways that we can rejoice in the midst of pain. Number 1, we can start with honesty. We can write a lament like David did in the Psalms by just pouring out our sadness, our anger, our confusion. God can handle that. Number 2, name one thing each day you're grateful for, no matter how small. Gratitude doesn't erase grief, but it opens a window to God's presence. Number 3, speak truth aloud. Even if God doesn't, he is still good. And number 4, invite someone safe into your story. Do not grieve alone. So if this is your story right now, if you have just had a faint line fade and your body feels like it's betraying you, I want you to know that God sees you. Your pain is valid, your tears are noticed, and even here, your story is not wasted. He is near to the brokenhearted. He is faithful in the valley. Joy isn't the reward at the end of your suffering. It is the invitation right here in the middle of it, to cling to Jesus, to rejoice in who he is, not in what has or hasn't happened yet. So I'm going to pray for us. I'm going to pray for you because I know that I need it. I need the Lord to just minister to my heart in this season. And I'm sure the Lord needs to minister to yours as well if you're listening. So Lord, I just lift up every woman listening right now who is hurting just like me. You see her faint lines, her dashed hopes, and her tears. Meet us in the pain. Teach us to lament honestly and also to rejoice in you, just like Paul talks about. Give us a heart that doesn't force joy, but that chooses to rejoice. Grow fruit in our life that will last and remind us that we are not forgotten. In Jesus' name, amen. If this episode met you where you are, would you share it with a friend who might need it too? And if you want more encouragement in your waiting, I have free resources linked in the show notes. You do not have to walk this alone. Until next time, keep waiting well, because even here, God is at work. I am so glad that you chose to meet me at the well today. If this episode inspired you, changed you, or blessed you in some way, I would love for you to do one of two things. First, head to Apple Podcasts at that link below and leave a review. And second, screenshot this episode and share it in your stories, tagging me at Sown with Strength, or text it on over to a friend that this episode might bless. These are the number one ways to thank me. I am truly so grateful to be building out this community, and I cannot wait to see you on the next episode. Until then, go get a workout done for me, and I will see you right back here in the Waiting Well podcast.